All right. Hello. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for joining me today and hopefully being able to have a conversation with me about practice planning and practice plan specifically that drives performance. Before we get started, just, this is an area that's a big passion of mine. It's my 19th season coaching and like all of you, as you go through your years, you start to form opinions and have philosophies as to how you want to go about things, specifically in this case, practice planning, executing a practice plan that ultimately, hopefully leads to execution on the weekends for us at the college setting. Of course, the goal of winning championships at the end of the year. Before we get started, just kind of want to give you just a really brief idea of my background. And really, the only reason why I do this is I do think it's a little bit unique in the sense that I've been at many different places and worn a handful of different hats. I've probably been in all of your shoes at some point from a role standpoint. And again, like I said, it really has just kind of formed who I am as a coach. So, like I mentioned, it's my 19th season coaching. My first 16 seasons were actually all on the boys and the men's side of things before these last 3 years going over to the women's side for the first time. I've coached at the youth level, both as an assistant coach and as a head coach, primarily at the Bantam level, which is eighth and ninth graders here in Minnesota. Spent 10 years as a high school coach here in Minnesota, both as an assistant coach and as a head coach. Was a head Division III men's coach for a couple seasons. Was at the Division I level on the men's side as a director of operations and kind of the video side of things. And then again, now being on the women's side as the associate head coach at Minnesota, primarily in charge of our forwards and of our power play. And most recently, I was just named assistant coach of the U.S. Under-18 team, national team that's getting ready to go to work here at Worlds in about a month. So exciting time for me and for us for sure. On top of coaching, I spent 9 years as a teacher as well at the elementary school level as an elementary physical education teacher. 1 year was actually in the middle school as well, teaching health and physical education. Had over 3 years as an athletic director, as both a head athletic director and as an associate athletic director. Again, all that it really is more than anything just to share with you kind of my unique background. I've been blessed to be around a ton of really, really good high-level athletes, players that are playing in the NHL, players that are playing the PWHL for their national teams, and of course with my teaching and administrative background, just being able to see so many different coaches and so many high-level teachers and administrators and how they do things. Like all of you, I'm sure, we tend to kind of pick and choose things that we see from different people that we're around, whether it's athletes or teachers, coaches, administrators, and again, all that to kind of just start to form who you are as a coach. Kind of an agenda for the day here, just kind of 7 items that I want to go over with you all, and then hopefully again have some dialogue at the end as well. But first and foremost, just things to consider. So before we even put pen to paper, or nowadays, enter in your practice plans in your computer, what are just some things that we need to consider before we even start thinking about practice? Once that's happened, what are some daily reminders that we want to take with us, before we enter the ice or before we enter our coaching space and start getting in front of our athletes? The next few are just kind of things specific to what we try to do at Minnesota, just a development cycle that kind of helps guide our practice planning, what a typical week kind of looks like for us, a weekly practice planning matrix I'd like to share with you guys. Again, that kind of helps guide our planning for each week. And then finally show you guys just some sample practice plans, based on the day of the week. And then hopefully the video will work and I can share some drills with you guys as well that hopefully you can take some things away from there too. So diving right in here. Just some things to consider. Again, none of this stuff's going to be earth-shattering to you, but hopefully, again, you can take a thing or two away from it. But first and foremost, just your numbers, right? Like, how many players do you have on the ice? Do you have 26 players on the ice? Do you have 15 players on the ice based on what level you're coaching? What are your staff resources? Is it just you and one other person? Do you have a staff of 6? Do you have a goalie coach on the ice with you? All those things kind of guide and dictate what we can do for our practice for that time. The second one, there are just time constraints. Are you constrained by a Zamboni coming out at a certain time as the buzzer going, and you got to get off the ice at that time no matter what? Or do you have a little bit more freedom to do things both before and after practice, or stretch your practice out if you need to? The relevance of lines and partners. Again, at our level, there are certain days where we're not in our lines, we're not in any combinations. We just want them to play and be in colors. Then there's other days where it's really important that we are with our line mates and with our D partners. And with that said, just being organized with our jersey colors. Are we going to have extra jerseys on the bench in case we want to switch things around? Or are we going to have pennies on the bench? What is our plan for shuffling things around if we need to do that? Kind of going into more of the practice meat and potatoes of it. Is it a day that we're going to do a lot of skill development or even acquire a new skill? Is it going to be more of a flow day where there's maybe not as much teaching? It's more of just kind of a workout day, getting them up and down the rink. Or is it a structure day, where we're working on things that we want to make sure we're doing in all three zones? Or of course, is there a blend of all that? How are we incorporating our goaltenders into our practice? Again, do we have a goalie coach specifically that's there that's keeping an eye on them? Even if that is the case, how are we doing drills? Is there a goalie handle that we can add to this drill to get them out of their comfort zone and help them kind of develop that skill as well? Our focus for the day, how does it fit into the week? Are we focused on our upcoming opponent? Are we focused on ourselves? If we do start to focus on our upcoming opponent, at what point in the week do we kind of get to that point? Again, you can see here just a lot of organization that probably a lot of you are doing already without putting it to paper, all before we even start planning our practice for that day. The next one is daily reminders. So now once we have our practice planned, just things that we want to make sure that we're taking with us before we even step onto the ice or into our coaching space and getting in front of athletes. The first one there, everything must have a purpose. I probably didn't learn that honestly until my third year coaching. I was coached with a gentleman by the name of Yanni Kivihalme. To this day, he's still one of the best coaches I've ever been around. And he was the first person that really challenged me to make sure that every single thing we did had a purpose. At the time, just a classic, like, you see a drill on the internet that looks really fun and it looks really cool. There's a ton of stuff happening. It looks good to the people in the crowd that are watching. But what's the purpose of it? How does this fit into what we try to do as a team, right? How does this fit into our philosophies? How does this fit into our system and our structure? And he just did a really good job of asking those questions, right? If there's a quote unquote goalie warm-up drill, why are we doing that drill? How does that drill fit into who we are as a group? So it's something that's always just been a good daily reminder for me, is just everything that we do has to have a purpose. If a player comes up to you and asks why we're doing something, you should have an immediate response, and it should fit into who you are as a team. Pace and passing. This is really important to me. I'm a short practice guy. If I had full control, which I don't right now, I would go an hour max. I just feel like when you go short and sweet, the pace tends to be higher. The passes tend to be more crisp. There tends to be a little bit more intensity to practice. Players tend to get to their spots quicker. They tend to get to the line quicker. They tend to get to their pile of pucks quicker. They tend to get to the coach quicker. And if they know that they only have that 1 hour, in my opinion, it kind of, when they leave practice, they have more that they want to give the next day, and they want to come back because maybe they didn't feel like they finished the drill that we did that day, or we have a small game that we want to get back to the following day, or whatever it may be. With that said, in order to have a short, sweet, and crisp practice, you have to have limited board time. If you're spending time and minutes at a time at the board, you're just going to lose players, in my opinion. Perfect world, I would actually love to not be at the board at all. Of course, that's not always fully realistic. But what I find is that when we are at the board, it's very, very limited. Full disclosure, it's probably for the 3 or 4 players who are going first in line. And the players that are in the middle or at the end are usually just kind of watching the demo and watching the players ahead of them go anyway. Going back to kind of the everything must have a purpose, just making sure that everything we do has some type of game-like scenario to it, especially when you get into the higher numbers, the 4-on-4s, the 5-on-5s. How does this scenario fit into a game? Does it look like a game? Is the intensity that of a game? Are we mimicking the pace and the competitiveness that a game is going to have as best we can, right? Like I know it's not always possible. A lot of coaches will talk about making practice so hard that when you get to the game, it's easy. That's a lot easier said than done, but I do feel like it's our job as coaches to make sure that we are putting our players in the environment as best we can that does mimic that scenario. What are your standards and your non-negotiables? Are your staff standards your non-negotiables? Are you allowing those standards and non-negotiables to slip? Or are you holding your players accountable to them when you see a little slippage in those areas? And that could be anything from stopping at the net to hitting the net to connecting on your passes. Something that we started doing as of late here, just to focus on our passing is as coaches with our skill drills to start practice. We have kind of a number in our mind from missed pass standpoint. So let's say it's 4. So we do a drill, and as soon as we see 4 missed passes, the whistle blows, and they're doing a quick sideboards or they're doing 5 push-ups. Just something for them to know that we're watching them. That this is important. When you get to a game, you only have one of these things, and we want to make sure that we're trying to improve the condition of that puck as best as possible. And the only way to do that is to make sure that we're making tape-to-tape passes. So again, just making sure that we're holding our players accountable to our standards and our non-negotiables that we have as a group. Coaches as teachers, I mentioned this earlier. I had taught myself for 9 years, so this is something that kind of comes natural to me. But just making sure that you understand that you are a teacher when you're coaching, right? It's so cliche, but the locker room, the rink is your classroom, and practices are for coaches and games are for players. And how are you fostering an environment that is one of learning, and that players are understanding and picking up on concepts as best as possible, so that when they do get to the games, they can play a little bit more freely and not overthinking what you have them doing. The next one there is something that I feel like not every coach it does. It's a little bit undervalued. Just making sure that it's competitive and fun. And I'll focus on the fun part. I feel like a huge part of our job as coaches is creating an environment and fostering an environment that players want to come back to each and every day. This season is incredibly long. Like at the collegiate level, we're starting in September. We're going to hopefully till late March. Things can get monotonous, things can get boring, but how are we going to break the boring? How are we going to make it fun for them? How are we going to create energy as coaches? Is it chasing them up the rink on 2-on-1s or as they're doing their drills? Is it just banging your stick on the boards or on the ice as they're going? Is it hooting and hollering? One thing that we changed this year was we run music during every drill and practice for the first time ever. It's something I never thought that I would like doing. I thought as a teacher, like, how are you going to teach if music is going and music's loud in the background? And we found ways to do it, and we love it. And we feel like it brings energy right from the get-go when players steal hit the ice that first time. And just the last daily reminder there, just don't assume they know. It's so easy as coaches. We just got into it ourselves here at Minnesota, assuming that players know what they're doing in a certain system, and you start practicing it, and it's been neglected for a little bit, and you realize that they really don't know what to do, and you find that out based on the questions and based on their routes in practice and video and whatnot. But it's just so easy to assume that they know, especially when you get to higher levels. You assume that they've learned this before, they've heard this before, and that it's ingrained in them. And more often than not, it's not, or it's not at least sharp and top of their mind. Just a development cycle. Again, nothing earth-shattering here. Just something that we kind of focus on at Minnesota that drives our weeks and drives our development. You can kind of start the cycle wherever you want to, but for us, for right now, I'll just start here with video. So starting on Tuesdays, we do a lot of team teaching on Tuesdays. Sometimes it's on us as a staff, or sorry, as a group. Oftentimes it's of other teams. So it's NHL video, it's PWHL video, it's national team video. And we just want to make sure that whatever video that we're showing on that Tuesday, that we're jumping right into practice and we're putting that video to use immediately in our drills. So if we're going to show a bunch of NHL and PWHL entries, we don't want to wait until Thursday to all of a sudden start doing entries. We want to do them right away on that Tuesday so we can see some of that stuff come to fruition right away. Same thing with any other structure or any other system that we're doing in video. Again, going to practice, we videotape every one of our practices. We actually use the video a decent amount, whether it's pulling players in one-on-one after practice and showing them something that we had talked about, whether it's the following day, going over just a couple reps of a defensive zone coverage drill that we did in practice. Again, we use a lot of video in practice. And again, it just continues the cycle from video to what we're going to start implementing in practice and how we're carrying out what we're trying to accomplish. From practices, obviously, of course, now we're getting to games. And like I mentioned before, practices are for coaches, games for players. We feel like we have a lot of input on games. At the end of the day, we only have so much, right? We can motivate a little bit here and there. We can adjust in-game media timeouts or between periods. But at the end of the day, the players are the ones who are jumping over the boards and are the ones who are making decisions and have to have the right energy and the right IQ to make certain plays at certain times and execute. From game, obviously, we're watching, going back to video again on Saturdays and teaching from there. And again, it's just kind of a continuous cycle from video to practice to game as far as how we want to teach our players and make sure that we're doing what we want to do. Just a typical week at Minnesota. And for most of us college coaches, obviously, this looks pretty similar. I show this because honestly, when I put this to paper, I was kind of shocked by just how full our players' days are. You'll see here just kind of in this spreadsheet. I don't even have academics in here. And the reason why I didn't put it in here is because obviously their academics are spread throughout the day, whether it's before we get into our hockey stuff, in the middle of it, all at night. But again, all these things here that we're having our players do each and every day on this exact spreadsheet does not even include their classwork and spending time with family and friends and whatnot. The other eye opener for me when I put this to paper was, this is exactly why as coaches, we need to be prepared. We need to be planned. We need to be concise with what we're doing, because if we're not, our players, our athletes' minds are so easy to go in different areas of their lives as they go. So again, going back to the premise of this Zoom here on practice planning and execution, and hopefully one that drives performance, just making sure that we're keeping in mind all the stuff that we have our players doing each and every week. A weekly practice planning matrix. So again, we at Minnesota kind of use this to help guide us each and every week. Down the left side there, you can see kind of the different, whether it's skill acquisition stuff, structure, systematic stuff, different areas of the game, 6-on-5, 5v6, special teams, and so on. And then across the top there, we have our days of the week. What we do is when we start jotting down notes of what we want to do, we'll obviously just put X's in boxes so we can kind of get organized. And make sure that, once we fill out this sheet, that we're getting everything accomplished that we want to for the week and for our upcoming opponent. It's something that I feel like really helps us stay organized. And then once we see what we want to accomplish each and every day, now we can kind of get into our drill database and our drill catalog and figure out how we're going to best accomplish each one of those things. Just kind of the rest of the meeting here, the rest of the time that we're together, I just kind of want to spend time on just sample practice plans. And then, like I said, hopefully our video works here for you guys and it's not too glitchy, where you can kind of see what a typical practice looks like for us at Minnesota, and hopefully be able to even take a drill or two away with you guys back to your team. So what I have here is I have a Monday practice, I have a Tuesday practice, and I have a Thursday practice. Only reason why I skipped Wednesday is just really for time, and because our Tuesday practices and our Wednesday practices tend to be similar, just on different sides of the puck. So for us on Mondays is usually more of kind of our workout day. One of our shorter practices each week. Actually, as the year goes on, we tend to take off Mondays a lot as well. But if we do skate on Monday, this is kind of what a typical Monday looks like. The structure of our practice pretty much stays the same. So we start every single practice, no matter what, with 3 skill drills. We call them skill drills. Some can call them a goalie warm-up drill. But again, we have a purpose behind it. So I prefer the term skill drills when we do it. When we do those three skill drills, there's no breaks in between other than a little bit of conditioning. So after our first skill drill, we have our players do just a quick hard lap on a whistle. After our second skill drill, we do a quick down and back. And after our third skill drill, we do three sideboards. Again, there's no time at the board in between. We're just hollering out the drill name, and players go right to their spots right away. We rip through those first three skill drills in honestly probably 18 to 20 minutes or so. If we're really crisp and our passing is good and our pace is high, we might be able to get through it in 15 minutes. It's just a way to get our feet, our brains, our hands going right away, get them activated. Not a ton of teaching going on in those first three skill drills. If things get messy, we just want them to kind of let themselves play out and work out themselves. So on this day here, you can see just a 5-on-5 keep away drill, a little Swedish 7 pass, getting their hands and feet going, 2-on-1 drill. And then now we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of our practice. And again, the same structure follows on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays as well. Meat and potatoes of our practice is more just kind of what is our theme for the day. Again, on a Monday, it's usually more of a workout type day, just length of ice drills, up and down the rink type of drills, maybe one or two concepts that we want to accomplish. On our Tuesdays, it tends to be more of a defensive side of the puck day. On Wednesdays, more of the offense side of the puck. And then, of course, on Thursday, we're really dialing in and trying to get our players feeling good going into the weekend. See if I can get to some video here. Can someone just give me a thumbs up if you can see the video on your screen? Perfect, thank you. Okay, so first drill here, just a 5-on-5 keep away drill. I'll just kind of talk through it as we're going. It's one of my favorite drills to start practice. For the most part, it's positionless. Here you can see it's just maroon against gold. What I love about it is from an offensive standpoint, players are forced to support pucks. Players are forced to go to pucks. There's tons of communication. There's no shooting going on here, so our goalies are with our goalie coach, working on goalie-specific things. Defensively, of course, here, just working on staying with coverage, knowing where our players with the puck are, knowing where players without the puck are. And again, it kind of goes into how we want to play offensively, which is kind of that 5-person offense. It's a really good way to get things going each day. Just a Swedish 7-pass, just a 4-dot drill here. I'm sure a lot of you guys do this exact same one. But again, length of ice drills, get your hands and feet going, make sure we're focusing on details, facing the puck, presenting a target as we go, and just kind of long shots here to get the goalies going as well. Third skill drill on this day was just we call it Brando 2-on-1. It's a 2-on-1 short into a 2-on-1 long. What you'll see here as well, you get an element of D re-gapping, getting up in the play. You'll see an element of a neutral zone transition, just a 4-player neutral zone transition. And then again, we have a 2-on-1 long that's challenging for these D to try to get their gap going with players coming at them at full speed. So that's typical what kind of the first three skill drills sort of look like, right? A little bit of team stuff, probably like a 1-on-0, a 2-on-0 into a 2-on-1. Nothing really ever exceeds a 2-on-1 in those first three skill drills. Like I had mentioned, we add a little conditioning into that as well, just to make sure that we're getting that each day too. Okay, now kind of getting into the meat and potatoes of practice here. This first one here we call Golden Bear. It's a kind of a 2-on-2 drill that ping pongs back and forth from one side of the ice to the other. You'll see here one maroon player, so the defensive team always needs to return to the dot. Okay, so how we structure this when we do it again to make sure that everything's having a purpose. Offensively, we kind of let them go, whether they're in their lines. We even let the defenseman play on offense in this drill as well. But from a defensive standpoint, we always want to make sure that we either have 2D and a center or even 3D in this case. Again, you can see there's a lot of D-zone sort that's happening from a defensive standpoint. From an offensive standpoint, you're seeing puck support, you're seeing doubling, you're seeing inadvertent picks, and so on. Again, all with the mindset of trying to attack, just high intensity, high compete, getting them going right away here on a Monday. Again, we talked about coaches as teachers. Again, just something that I learned fairly early on, being fortunate enough to coach under good people. One of my first head coaches that I actually played for and that I was also an assistant coach for, a gentleman by the name of Steve Steege. He's a teacher as well in a middle school setting. But he was just the first person that I saw that was not afraid to stop practice. And I know it sounds so simple to do, but it's also very easy to just continue to let practice go and to let things slip. So in this case here, I'm just kind of trying to teach a little bit of stick detail to our players, making sure that our sticks aren't only present, but our stick are on puck as well, and making our stick a problem. But again, just not being afraid to stop practice, and just remind that you're a teacher as you're going to. Here is a 2-on-2 drill with a tracker. The whole point of this drill here, you'll see another clip in a minute. The whole point of this drill here was just to make sure that we're not turning pucks over at the blue line, really. So 2-on-2 with the tracker. On the defensive side of things, we have the defensemen have good gaps. Again, you can see on the top screen there, gold defenseman, and we have that gold tracker that's coming back. So defensively, they have numbers in their favor. Where are we going to put pucks so that we have our best chance of recovering that puck behind their D? What we found, it's funny, that was the point of the drill in the first place. And what we found when we started running this drill is that it actually was a really good exit drill for our three defensive players, working on their bumps and working on their support coming out. Again, from an offensive standpoint here, you can see our maroon working on their reloads and everything as well. So we're not just doing a drill to do a drill. We always have our concepts, our game concepts in mind as we go also. Okay, again, that's kind of a typical Monday. Obviously, I didn't have a small game in there. We try to end every practice, or at least have a small game somewhere in every practice, no matter what. First and foremost, players love it. From a coaching standpoint, it tends to get the juice going. It tends to be more competitive. You're learning how to win. You're learning how to lose. You're learning how to keep leads. If you have a little reward for a winning team, a little bit of punishment for a losing team, it just aids in that competition and intensity. And again, we put it in different parts of practice. There's times where we put it in the middle of practice just to break up kind of the monotony of what we're doing. And there's times where we always want to end with it just to get them feeling good and having fun to finish practice as well. Here we had a sample plan for Tuesday. Again, you'll see our first three skill drills there. So a Columbus track drill, so 1-on-0 drill, Portland quick up drill. So that's, again, it's a neutral zone transition drill. 1-on-0 is into a little bit of ozone play, three-man ozone play. And then we have a wild 1-1-2-1-3-2 drill here, which you'll see in a second, but just tons of rushes up and down the rink. Again, those would be our first three skill drills that we kind of try to rip out in 15, 18, maybe 20 minutes max. Tuesdays, again, for us at Minnesota tends to be more of a defensive day. So you'll see, some 3-on-3 low, some 3-on-3 with wings being the primary focus before kind of getting into our 5-on-5 D-zone coverage. And in this particular day, we had a small game that we threw in the middle of our practice. Here's our first drill. Again, one of our players' favorites, just a 1-on-1 drill, continuous into 2-on-1, and then continuous into 3-on-1 with a tracker. The first player goes there 1-on-1. They join their line mate into a 2-on-1 here. And then that defenseman that took the rush 2-on-1, she is now going to start tracking back in a situation where she's down and there's odd numbers coming against us. She's going to start tracking back and trying to make this a 3-on-2 as best as possible. You can see a little communication between the two defensemen as to how to play this situation, how to play this rush. The forwards now are attacking on a 3-on-1 or a 3-on-2 situation. Again, now we're kind of getting to the meat and potatoes of our practice. 3-on-3 low. We decided to start this drill off of a rim release. Something we're trying to work on, something we're trying to get better at as a group as well. So we're working on in practice here, not only how to collect these rims and how to make a play from it, but from a defensive standpoint, when pucks go below the goal line and behind the net back, what does our coverage look like in front? So again, when we're doing these drills, we try to make sure that we have 2D and a center going at all times, because 95% of the time, that's what it's going to look like in a game. On this day, we are with our lines, sort of from an offensive standpoint. We're having our forward lines playing with each other here as well, just getting used to each other, getting used to supporting each other, what the communication sounds like and feels like with each other, and so on. From here, we went right into a 3-on-3 with a focus on our wing. So here in gold, they're the defensive team. We have one wing, and then we have either a D and a center or two defensemen. On Maroon here, we always have one offensive defenseman, and then we have two forwards down low. Again, the main focus here in this drill is really on our wing and maybe specifically our wing and our D or down low coverage, the relationship between what we're doing here. Okay, so again, coach is a teacher. In this case here, I'm just kind of talking about the defensive triangle with our wing. I happen to notice her getting caught on the wall and losing sight of where her quote unquote player, where her defenseman is, and just making sure that we're staying sharp with our stick detail and making sure that we keep our defensive zone coverage, our defensive zone triangle with the puck here and with our player the entire time. Again, we talked about progression. So now we had 3-3 low with our D and our centers. We went to 3-on-3 wings with our wing and either a D and a center down low. Now we're progressing into a 5-on-5 D zone coverage. If you saw there early on, we start this drill with a high roll every time. So the offensive team has to do a high roll each time. Once they do a high roll, now it just becomes live hockey. Again, we're in our colors, we're in our lines. It's just 5-on-5 free play at this point. I believe this rep was about 35 seconds long. Again, we're trying to mimic a game as best as possible. So instead of throwing multiple pucks in, instead of having them in there for 10 seconds, or on the contrary, having them in there for a minute 15 seconds, we're trying to make it as game-like as possible with more of a 35-second shift where you're really getting hemmed in there and trying to figure out how to find out come up with solutions to get out. Again, our Wednesdays are pretty similar to our Tuesdays. The only difference is that on Wednesdays we tend to focus on the offensive side of the puck. So whether it's offensive zone play or offensive zone structure, neutral zone transition, we do tons of rushes and entries on Wednesdays. We might do a little forecheck. I know that's kind of a defensive concept, right? We're trying to get pucks back on a forecheck, but it's in the offensive zone, so that could fall into play on a Wednesday as well. Wednesdays tends to be our penalty kill day as we start talking about special teams, and then Thursday is usually our power play day. And of course, if we feel the need to do multiple of those throughout the week, we obviously have time to throw those in there too. Just a sample plan for the Thursday. Again, for us at the collegiate level, we're able to be real structured with how our weeks look. So Thursdays, again, we have our first 3 skill drills at the start. The big difference here on Thursdays is that we don't have a ton of resistance in our drills on Thursdays, and it's just part of our philosophy, right? We want our pace to be high. We want our players to be crisp. We want it to be sharp. We want them feeling good going into the weekend and really being as sharp as they can with energy going into the weekend. So we end up doing a lot of predetermined drills on Thursdays, which I know kind of goes against with a lot of philosophies now as far as getting players to always be making decisions in drills. There is still some decision making that goes on, but again, Thursdays for us is a little bit more scripted from a predetermined entries, predetermined transitions, predetermined breakouts. And again, our philosophy is just making sure that our players are constantly reminded of options and ideas that they have when faced with different decisions in a game. So again, going into our Thursday practice, one of our skill drills here is always a 5-on-0 breakout drill. Again, a drill that many of you guys probably also run. When we do this, we go through all of our exit options. So right here, you're seeing our wall bumps, but we go through every single one of these exit options. Perfect world, we're using one puck the entire time because we're crisp as we're going. Our pace is high. Wild rush is another staple drill on Thursdays. Again, we're scripting their neutral zone transition. So here we're going D to D to hinge, coming back out the opposite side. And then again, we're also scripting their entry. So all these entries that you're going to see here are all indirect entries. None of these are carried in. So we're mimicking, a pressure in the neutral zone situation and just trying to get pucks to the D, get pucks behind their D and get pucks to their goal line as quickly as possible. On this Thursday, we ended up running some neutral zone forechecks. It's an area that we felt like we got exposed in and that we needed to improve in. Again, this is not typical of a Thursday, but it's something that we were not able to get in earlier in the week. So we wanted to make sure that we worked through our routes a little bit from neutral and forecheck standpoint. In this case here, it's a multi-puck drill. So we did it one time with our neutral and forechecking players kind of scrambling around. So they weren't sure who was going to be F1, F2, F3, and so on. Once they went through with their structure, we blow the whistle down, get another puck in there. So again, they're unorganized and they need to find ways to get organized and get into their system. Again, just another highlight of us teaching as coaches. This one happens a little more natural or a little more organic. We're not blowing the whistle down to show, but you can see two separate coaches here just constantly teaching throughout practice versus just allowing things to go unseen. We always finish our Thursdays with a little power play work here. One of my favorite ways to work on power play. I know it's tough it feels like it's one of the hardest things to work on in practice, but one way that I have found to work on power play effectively is just to do a 1 minute power play. So what we do is we do a kind of our one power play against our second power play group. We keep track of shots on goal, and each group has 1 minute in zone. What I like about it is that players kind of start to understand what time feels like when they're in the offensive zone on the power play. So how it works is when a goal is scored, the clock stops, new puck comes in, and whatever time is on the clock, that's how much time you have left. So they're right there, puck goes to the goalie freezes it, a new puck comes in. There might only be 18 seconds left on the clock now for this group, but they start to realize what 18 seconds feels like. So in a game, if there's 18 seconds on a clock and there's a face-off and they win the draw cleanly, they understand they don't have to panic. It's actually more time than they think. We've done this before in practice. We know what this feels like, and so on. It's one of my favorite ways to run power play in practice and to get it competitive there. So again, my goal there for you guys, just to kind of show some sample practice plans. Hopefully you got a little flavor of what things look like from a execution of those drills in practice. Obviously at the beginning there, just making sure that we're reminded of things to consider before we even start planning our practices. And then of course, just our daily reminders of what we want to make sure we're bringing with us to our coaching spaces each day, whether that's the locker room or the rink.